cafe. Excuse me.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I didn't think the microphone was on when I was supposed to be singing at that point. It's Mike Matthews here at Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Mont, the last place on Earth. And we are bringing you episode 1364. And I am telling you today, we have Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, and John Deere the engineer.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
That was a wonderful sentence to tell you that I'm telling you. This very telling. And it's
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Something happened around 8:45 last night as I was watching television. Of course, I'm watching Netflix because that's my decision, and I don't watch any live shows at all. But there was a loud noise that made me stop and stall and look outside because I saw fireworks. Well,
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I heard them. I never see them from my house. I always hear them, and that was because the Warriors won.
Mike's
So we'll have a
Daily
Marko Minute today.
Podcast.
The return of the Marko Minute.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, but Marko was in the midst of all the Warrior celebration as the Warriors won last evening. And here's the Warriors thing.
Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
Look who just walked in.
Hello, Matthews. It's Chely Shoehart, gift show supervisor. What the hell is that?
It was a movie in the 80s. I think. I forget.
Oh, okay. Like, whatever. Anyway, me and Bob last night went and saw Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman! How'd you like it?
It was okay.
Look who else walked in. Oh my, this is Floyd the Floorman! And this is John Deere the engineer. We saw Wonder Woman 2. It's the best movie ever made. Oh, good. All right. So two people with different points of view. So scary. What I enjoy watching on Netflix is Escape to the Country. It's a show done in England by the BBC where they follow people around as they look at houses in the country. And you get to learn interesting things about Cornwall. Yes, there's a place called Cornwall or Cornish, and the Cornish game hen comes from there. For some reason, they didn't go into that, but they talked about
And here's today's podcast picture.
making sea salt, and I have a picture about that. Sea salt pretty much is made the way you would expect. You get a bunch of seawater and you heat it up and you evaporate the water and you get the salt. Ta-da. Ta-da. Ta-do. Oh. I've never used any of this equipment in front of me before, so I don't know what I'm doing. The podcast picture today is of my wonderful damn dog that I love so much, my boxer, Basil. And in this picture, we're in Benita yet again. Benita. Benita is this wonderful town just north of Walnut Creek, north of me in Podcastro Valley. It's just as you're about to get to Napa, basically. As you're about to begin your trek to Napa, you still got another hour or so. I think that's how it goes. I haven't been up there in a while. But Benicia, it's got a nice little downtown area, and my boxer, Basil, loves to bark there and run around and have a fun time. Oh, I have an audio of him barking at the waves, but I can't find it. I'm not going to be able to find it. I've got too much going on. Too much. Stop it. Stop. Some other time, remind me, and I'll play you the wonderful sounds of Basil barking at waves. But yes, Benicia is a wonderful place, and I have a picture of it. Now, yesterday's picture, I didn't really explain or say what it was, but it was a picture of me in Capitola. No, I wasn't in it, but I took it. In Capitola, that is close to Santa Cruz. It's just south of Santa Cruz. Don't you love the directions I give on this podcast? South of Santa Cruz, make a left, go right, then go turn around and come back. It is Capitola it's a beach town, and it's known for where the water, this creek, comes out and turns into like a slough there, and it goes out to the ocean, and right in that little area of the beach, there's a hotel that has these brightly colored rooms, but it's sort of set up against this cliff, and it's very picturesque. And you can't find any parking ever in Capitola. Oh, there are parking spots, but they're always taken up by idiots, by people that know how to park, or they're tourists that get there early. I don't know. You just can never ever park in Capitola. So one day, because I couldn't park in Capitola, I had to drive really far inland near this creek called Sokol. I don't know how anything's pronounced. It's amazing I'm even talking to you. It's amazing. It's amazing I even host a podcast. But it's called, I have this equipment that I'm obviously really good at using, and that's how it's done. So, Sokol has some cute little houses along the Sokol Creek has some cute houses along it, and so I thought I would post a picture of the houses and this big, huge train trestle that goes over these houses. I don't know if I'd feel very comfortable with a train going over my head, over this head of mine. This head above my body is breaking in two because a train has fallen on it. I'm dead sexy. And here comes the train sound effect. Don't follow my... So, that's a picture of that. Now, when I think of the word Sokol, I think of a woman that I knew that lived there, that I had met when I used to go down to Santa Cruz a couple times a year and let Basil run around the beach there. He loves running on beaches. Benicia, Santa Cruz. Although Santa Cruz, Benicia, they let you. It says dogs can be on the beach. It's okay, off leash. But in Santa Cruz, it's like, no. Dogs aren't allowed anywhere, any place, anytime. No dogs. Ever. That's how Santa Cruz is. And I met a woman there in one of these little areas where dogs can run on the beach. A little cove, if you will. I had Basil running around, and there was this lady. What was her name? Coriander, something like that. And she, beautiful eyes, piercing blue eyes. Blue eyes, baby's got blue eyes. If you're a woman with blue eyes, let me tell you, I've got a million songs I can sing for you. They've written so many songs. I just freeze every time you see through me, and it's all over you. Electric blue. On my knees. Help me, baby, tell me what can I do? Electric Blue. That was an Australian band called Icehouse. And before that, Elton John. Blue eyes, baby's got blue eyes, like a blue day. Something. And of course, Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain by Willie Nelson. Oh, there's so many Blue Eyes songs. Brown Eyes, you've got your Van Morrison, but... Anywho, where was I? So, Coriander, or whatever her name was, we exchanged phone numbers, and I went down and met her again, I think 2 more times. Just had, nice dinner or lunch type thing, and we both had dogs, and they ran on the... I've met a lot of women through my dog, I must admit. But... that doesn't happen so much anymore. Most women that get dogs, this is from what I've found, from what I've discovered, my observations, are married or in a serious relationship, about to get married. So that's just not, it's not going to happen there. So Coriander, or whatever her name is, I was going to go down and see her a year ago. I was going to make my way down to Santa Cruz and meet up with her. And then there was some other woman that a friend of mine set me up with who lives in Santa Cruz. And my friend's like, hey, she wants to meet you. So I tried to schedule two women at the same time in Santa Cruz. Well, not at the same time. One right after the other, basically. Just have coffee with one and dinner with the other or something to that effect. And would you believe Coriander got mad about that? And I've not heard from her since. And she sent me a really vicious text. And in the text were several emoji that my Samsung didn't recognize. And I can only imagine what those emojis were. I will not translate them to Samsung because I'm sure they would not be worth watching or seeing. So, sorry to Coriander, but hey, I don't get down to Santa Cruz very often. I gotta squeeze you all at once into one appointment. I should have just had them meet each other. In any case, I don't talk to either of the women that I went down to meet anymore. And Santa Cruz is a strange place. There's a lot of pot. They don't allow dogs on the beach. And there's just a very bizarre surfer attitude. And I don't surf. I do a little of the body surfing. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to have a board between me and my wave. That's how I roll. That's how I surf. And I don't want to die. I don't want the board to come up and smack me in the head. Plus, I'm not blonde. Plus, cold water and me just don't really mix. I'll walk on your beach. I'll look at your little sandpipers going tweet, 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 as they run along and my dog chases them. But that's neither here nor there anywhere. Let's get out of Santa Cruz. Let's get out of Benita. Let's get into the news. Ain't life grand? All my past podcasts, you can go back a year ago and hear me tell the real story of what happened in Santa Cruz. That's pretty much similar to what really happened. And you can hear past interviews that I've done and see past podcast pictures and help out the show through the Amazon link. Click on the Amazon link, buy whatever it is you're going to buy, and that helps us out. There's also the PayPal. You can help us out that way. And it's all at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Now the segment called
Life Grand.
Well, a longtime friend to Trump said yesterday that our president is considering whether to fire Robert Mueller. Yes. We
had to make the move, and we decided to make the move.
Yeah, I don't think you want to make that move, President. The special counsel investigating possible ties between Trump's campaign and Russian officials.
I say it's better to get along with Russia than not.
The startling assertion comes as conservative allies of Mr. Trump, who initially praised Mr. Mueller's selection as special counsel, have begun trying to attack his credibility. Yeah, remember the whole doodad about, oh, Mueller's the best. Both sides of the aisle. Mueller's the best. Now, what? It's fallen apart. Christopher Ruddy, I saw him on C-SPAN this morning. The chief executive of Newsmax Media, whatever the hell that is, who was at the White House on Monday, said on PBS's NewsHour that Mr. Trump is, quote, considering perhaps terminating the special counsel. I think he is weighing that option. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the White House spokeswoman, said on Monday that Chris speaks for himself but declined to comment further. Next, and something troubling to me, speaking of PBS and NPR and all that, on the weekend, NPR had on for a soundbite Jay Sekulow. Oh, gosh. Can't stand Jay Sekulow. Jay Sekulow, first off, is way obsessed about his appearance. He's got this perfectly coiffed hair. He works out all the time, takes steroids. I don't know. He looks like he does. And he looks like Max Weinberg. Do you remember the drummer from the Conan O'Brien show? And he's Bruce Springsteen's drummer in the E Street Band. And he's such a hypocrite, because all the stuff he complains about the media going after with Trump is exactly what he said the media should go after with Obama. Wait, how am I saying this? It was something, stuff that he had a problem with Obama doing. He has no problem with Trump doing. And so the Defense Secretary, Jim Mattis, declared North Korea the most urgent and dangerous threat to peace and security before the House Armed Services Committee. This was last night, moving Kim Jong-un's regime past Russia as the number one threat the U.S. faces now. The statement was included in the Defense Secretary's prepared opening statement 5 months after Mattis identified Russia as first among threats facing the U.S. Now Pyongyang has moved forward, and it has moved forward that the U.S. calls an unprecedented number of tests on nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles, and as the Trump administration's connections to Russia are scrutinized by the FBI. Now, Jeff Sessions, our U.S. Attorney General from Alabama, is likely to step into a legal minefield today when he answers questions under oath before the Senate Intelligence Committee about his contacts with Russian officials and his role in the firing of FBI Director James Comey. Paul Ryan says there's no story here.
I think part of what is happening, I think Democrats are lighting their hair on fire to get you to cover this story, to try and keep repeating the same story.
And Paul Ryan also said that our president, he's never been president before, so cut him some slack. Excuse me, everybody who becomes president has never been president before. And you didn't cut any of them slack when they were Democrats, Paul Ryan. Well, I know he was tough on Obama, but when Sessions tells the committee when he talks to them, it could affect the legal jeopardy of Donald Trump, who has also said he is willing to speak about his interactions with Comey under oath, although he did not indicate in what forum. The Attorney General, who failed to inform the Senate about his meetings with Russian officials in his confirmation hearings, will face particularly tough questions about the senators, from the senators about his apparent role in Comey's dismissal. Should be very interesting today. The Comey hearing was it was huge ratings. Of course, it wasn't any one network covering it. All the networks were covering it, but people were tuned in. And Ken Rudin, who I mentioned on the show last week, who does a political podcast, who I do not think he should ever read anything, because it really sounds like he is reading when he is reading stuff. And apparently he has to script out his entire show, and that sucks, because he's best off the cuff and improvisation. His improvising, being extemporaneous. He said that listening to the Comey hearings on the radio was way more informative than watching it, because when you watch it on TV, you're kind of being forced to see the camera guy, the producer, or woman, the producer person is showing you which camera to watch, and you're being instructed to see what they want you to see, basically. And when you're listening on the radio, you're just listening to words, and you're hearing the words, and you're hearing what's really being said, and you see beyond the layers. And that's why podcasting is very good as well, because you are listening and hearing words and getting the message more clearly. Quite frankly, I'm just so sick. I'm getting so sick of video. I'm getting sick of the reality shows, and that's a rant for another day. But a new malware variant capable of knocking out networks that run power grids around the globe has been discovered by a computer security company studying an attack on the Ukrainian power grid. The malicious code is capable of directly controlling electricity substation switches and circuit breakers, and could potentially turn everything off. I'm back on. And turn off the power distribution, or to physically damage equipment used in the electricity distribution grid. U.S. power providers are properly alarmed, especially at the sophistication of the program. The president and CEO of the American Public Power Association said, "We are going up a level in the video game here," she said. Okay. The organization and the power companies, her name's Sue Kelly, by the way, are working with national and international organizations and the U.S. government to analyze the malware and the threat it might pose. Automatic malware that attacks the electric grid is a big deal, said the chief cybersecurity strategist at the security firm. That is mentioned in this article. That's on USA Today. Okay, let's get to the Marko Minute.
The Marko Minute. The Marko Minute.
He saw the Warriors win, and he is so happy. There goes Marko with the microphone. He's bringing it up to his mouth.
All right.
Marko, what was it like?
It was amazing. And of course, we're talking about the NBA Finals that concluded last night. And the Golden State Warriors, the home team here in the Bay Area, are now world champions again for the second time in 3 years. Yeah, you got to bust out some. We are the champions.
God, they're so loud. We are the champions, my friend.
Yeah, it was an amazing evening last night. You know, right now I feel like you seen the movie Euro Trip, right?
No.
Well, anyway,
was I supposed to?
Well, there's a scene where, like, you know, the kids are in the movie. They're trying to get to Berlin, and they're hitchhiking, right? And they run up to this bus driver who, like, speaks German too fast for the kid who's learning it. And he's telling him all this crap. And he's basically saying, he's telling him, at one point he goes, yeah, I'm wired on schnapps, Benzedrine, and chocolate-covered peanuts. And he's been driving for like 14 hours and he hasn't slept for 3 days. That's kind of how I feel right now. Except my thing is Martin Rossi, Ashby sparkling wine, and pure adrenaline from the Warriors winning it all last night. So I'm on like an hour. I took an hour nap, but yeah.
It was at the Oracle.
Yeah, Arena. Oracle Arena. Yeah,
the Oracle Arena.
Yeah.
And so you went to it.
I had a press credential for all the games here. What they call the West Games. So yeah, I was at games 1, 2, and then 5 last night. The clincher. It was amazing. I sat in section 224 where they created an auxiliary press box for all the you know, rest of the media. I think they credentialed over like 300 people for that finals. So I sat there with my buddy Lowell and my buddy Adam, my buddy Ryan. I nicknamed ourselves the Four Horsemen for the final. So, you know, because we all were in. And yeah, I started off by. I actually left around 3:30 yesterday to get to Oracle, and you know, when you're on 880, which is, by the way, I have that copyright. You can't use it without my permission. You know, it took an hour and a half just to get to the place because that's the worst freeway in all the Bay Area. It really is. I always thought 101 was the worst. And no way. 880 is by far the worst. It's like the 405 of Northern California, man. Yeah. So anyway, I finally get there. I get to my seat. The game starts, you know, and I got my vibe. I'm totally zoned into the game, and you know, it's going back and forward for a while, and then the Warriors go on this big run in the second quarter, and they go up by 11 at halftime. Then the Cavs cut it down to like 4 or 5 points in the third quarter, and then the Warriors just take over in the fourth. Kevin Durant, the guy who they got last year from Oklahoma City, was the Finals MVP, and he went off. He scored 39 points.
Wow.
Him and Steph Curry, you know, to me, he's the best player in the universe. They just went off. They between those two, they clinched the victory and the title for the Warriors, and so it was awesome, you know, watching that, because this is the first time since 1974 that a Bay Area team has clinched at home, a championship at home. Yeah. Last time it was the Oakland A's winning in 1974.
Damn.
So it's been a long time since the Bay Area has had a chance to celebrate, you know, where the team's clinched at home. You know, I mean, obviously, because, you know, the Giants have won 3 titles, but they did it all on the road. And then when the Warriors won their title in 2015, it was on the road. So, yeah, it's nice. I was a part of that. It was insanely loud in there. I couldn't believe how loud it got. I mean, it just, you couldn't hear yourself think whenever the Warriors would make a three-pointer. It was awesome. Got to go down the court during the ceremony, the Larry O'Brien trophy. That's the trophy they give to the winners. And then I waited like almost a half hour just to get into the locker room. By that time, though, they were already done spraying champagne on each other, so I didn't really get any champagne sprayed on me.
Oh.
Yeah, there was a couple beers that were flying around from everybody, but, I just got a little bit of beer, but that's it. But it was funny.
I can pour some root beer on you.
That's okay. But it was funny because, like, a couple of the Warriors were already drunk by that point by the time they let the media in. And one of the backup centers, his name's JaVale McGee, asked him, like, so, man, it's taking this long for you to get your title? Because I think he's been in the league about, 8 to 10 years or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, I said, so what does it feel like, man, now that you've got your title and your ring coming up? He's like, man, I feel like I just had a baby. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what do you mean? What's this, because of the journey and all that? And he's like, man, I don't know what I'm talking about. He goes, I just know that I don't drink, but I got champagne pouring out of my pores. And it was funny. He was hilarious. And a couple other guys were funny too. And I got to go into the podium and ask Draymond Green a question about the refs, and the refs were just horrible. They were so biased against the Warriors and toward the Cavs this series. It made me sick. So, I asked him to kind of, not necessarily bait him into, like, seeing what he would think, but he was pretty diplomatic about it. But I know I got on TV doing it for that.
Oh, nice.
And it's funny because I also got on TV, too, when NBA TV was interviewing the assistant coach for the Warriors. His name was Mike Brown. He actually took over while the head coach, Steve Kerr, was recuperating from like a back surgery thing. He had like a spinal leak in his back.
Wow.
And so he was recovering. And so most of the playoffs, Mike Brown was the coach. Until this last series. But so I was talking to him. Well, I wasn't talking to him. I was near him while the NBA TV guy was interviewing him. But you can see me in the background, kind of like, my microphone, pointing up at him. And I know my mom was like, hey, I saw you on TV. I'm like, hey. So that was surreal, though. And then going to the podium to ask questions, and then man, doing all the post-game stuff, getting that's done. But it was awesome, man. Just being a part of that. It really was. The closest I come to that was when the Giants won the pennant in 2014, which you have to win before you get to the World Series, because they clinched the World Series when they won it. They won it in Kansas City.
Oh, okay, they weren't.
So I wasn't part of that celebration. I was part of the pennant though when they won the National League championship.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to go in there and then that's when I got sprayed with champagne because everyone was going nuts in that clubhouse back then. Because that's the thing. Because like in baseball, you can have up to 40 people. Where in basketball all you have is 15 people. So, when there's 40 people and their family and friends are in there, and and everyone's going crazy, you have a lot more chance of getting sprayed with champagne and God knows what else they were drinking. Where this time around, it was like, by the time they let the media in, all the champagne bottles were all pretty much empty. And I saw the carnage in there was I don't know, had to be about 50 of those champagne bottles. I were just And I got a picture with one of them. I'm holding one up, going, "Yeah, look at me, I'm cool."
What a difference from last year, huh? A year ago.
Yeah, last year, I don't want to talk about last year because that was some BS because, the league wanted LeBron to win the championship for Cleveland.
Yeah.
Godforsaken city.
Yeah, you've told me about that horrible, horrible day a year ago.
So, because last year really sucked because not only did the Warriors lose in the finals, but then the Sharks also lost in the Stanley Cup final, and I had to witness that live, and that sucked. So 2016, not so good. 2017, we're doing pretty goddamn good right now. So
and how did LeBron look? Did he look?
He was basically what that one fan called him 2 years ago, and that is a pussy. That's what he looked like. You got to get that soundbite. You got to hear that soundbite. It's hilarious.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I think it was like after Game 1 or Game 2, the 2015 finals, and he's heading his way back to the locker room, right? And one of this I assume he was maybe 20, 21 years old. This chick is drunk off her ass, and as he's walking by, she screams at him, "Hey, LeBron!" And then he looked at her, and she goes, "How's it feel to be a And he looked like, huh? What'd you call me? And it was just the funniest thing. The way she said it and his reaction was classic. But that's how he looked last night, too. And he was making, like, all these excuses like, well, you know, we worked hard and, you know, we had a successful season. Well, all the rest of his teammates were like, yeah, we failed. This sucks. And, you know.
Yeah.
This guy just cares about himself only.
Right.
You know? And, I mean, it's like if you're in this personal space, he doesn't like you in his little personal space because he tried to, you know, tell me to get lost after game one of this final. Yeah, he's like, well, who are you going to talk to, man? Why'd you go over there? I'm like, what does it matter to you? Well, I know I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so anytime that guy loses anything, makes me happy.
Well, thank you for giving us a little behind-the-scenes look at the big night in Oakland. And as you left the Oracle, what was it just pandemonium on the streets, or can you remember anything?
Well, you know, most of it was cleared out by the time I got out of there because, you know, by the time we were done doing post-game cuts and all that stuff, and you know, all the people had pretty much left. I'm sure downtown Oakland was crazy. We saw one person that was climbing up a street light. You know, yeah, because I guess some people were doing live, you know, tweeting and live, stuff on their Facebook. And we saw one dude who was climbing the top of the street light, and we were like, that's like 20 feet off the ground. So I'm sure downtown Oakland was nuts last night. And I'm glad I wasn't part of that. I'm glad I was just in the arena in that area and enjoyed it, and got home around, I don't know, almost 2. And
you've had 1 hour sleep.
And 1 hour sleep. Like I said, Martin and Rossi Ashty, which I recommend, is a great sparkling wine, and adrenaline. So it's amazing, and I'm gonna go back there tonight actually because Def Leppard, Poison, and Tesla are performing there tonight. Woo! So it's gonna be interesting to see how they transform that within a 12-hour period. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Marko.
Right on, Mikey.
Marko Minute. Woo! If you would like to hear Marko's very own radio show on MetalDevastationRadio.com, that's where you go, MetalDevastationRadio.com. Marko becomes his alter ego, Damien Chaos, and plays some amazing metal of all types, going back in time to the birth of heavy metal to what it has become today. Listen to him Monday nights from 6 to 8. Monday nights, 6 to 8 Pacific time. And that's MetalDevastationRadio.com. Thanks, Marko. As we go outside the cafe anyway, we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Dang, what a fun day in the Bay Area yesterday. Next show, it's going to be Benita, the Disgruntled Fiddle Player, and the Brewmaster. And I hope you have a good day wherever you are listening to this, hearing the message into your ear hole.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!